Welcome. In this explainer, we're going to break down that journey from feeling stressed out to something more serious like depression. And most importantly, we'll talk about the real practical path to recovery. So, feeling overwhelmed? It's a pretty common feeling in our crazy, fast-paced world. Before we get into all the science of what's happening in your brain, let's just start with something super simple, a really powerful technique you can use literally right now to find a little bit of calm. Why don't we just try this together, right now? Just follow the steps you see. Sit up straight. Okay, as you see the flower open up, take a nice, slow, deep breath in. Feel your belly expand. Good. And now, as it closes, breathe all the way out. Let's do that one more time. Breathe in and out. You know, that simple little action is one of the best ways to immediately calm your nervous system. Doesn't matter if you're feeling stressed, anxious, or even angry. A few deep breaths can make a huge difference. Okay, so that breathing exercise, that's a fantastic tool to have in your back pocket, perfect for those in-the-moment situations. But what about the long game? How do we build up a stronger defense against daily stress? Let's dive into 3 scientifically backed methods you can add to your toolkit. Now, these aren't just some feel-good suggestions, okay? Think of them more like strength training for your mind. They're practical, evidence-based tools you can use to build up your mental fortitude and stop stress from taking over in the first place. So what is mindfulness really? At its core, it's just the practice of focusing completely on what you're doing right here, right now. Think about it. When you're driving, are you actually thinking about driving, or is your mind a million miles away worrying about work? When you're with your kids, are you really with them, or are you thinking about that email you forgot to send? Mindfulness is what keeps your brain from getting totally overloaded by that constant, exhausting mental noise. I love this quote because it shows a really powerful shift in how we can think. You know, our first instinct is usually to fight anxious thoughts, right? To push them away or wrestle with them. But the mindful approach is way different. You just observe them without judgment. You see the worry, you acknowledge it's there, and then, just like a cloud, you let it drift on by. All right, our next tool is gratitude. When we're stressed, our brains kind of have this built-in negativity bias. We're actually wired to zoom in on what's wrong. Practicing gratitude is how you consciously break that cycle. By intentionally thinking about what you're thankful for, you can literally shift your entire mental focus. And look, this doesn't have to be about big, grand things. Focusing on what you have, even the super simple stuff, like being able to take a deep breath or having a job to go to, can have a huge effect. It really does calm your nervous system and just lessens that heavy feeling of being buried under stress. And finally, let's talk about relaxation. We always tell ourselves, oh, I'll relax when I get some free time. But let's be honest, when does that free time ever actually show up? Here's the thing. Relaxation isn't a luxury. It's a necessity. You have to actually schedule it, put it in your calendar, just like you would a meeting for work. Now, all those tools are incredibly powerful for managing stress. But what happens when the stress just doesn't let up? When it becomes this chronic, overwhelming thing, and those simple techniques just aren't cutting it anymore? What happens when it turns into depression? Just snap out of it. Ugh. It's a phrase so many people dealing with depression hear, and it implies that it's all just a failure of willpower. But science gives us a totally different story about what's really going on inside the brain. So to really get why you can't just snap out of it, we need to look under the hood at the brain's raw materials. I want you to think of neurotransmitters, chemicals like serotonin and dopamine, as the high-octane fuel your brain absolutely needs to run properly, especially when it comes to regulating your mood. This is a great way to picture it. A healthy brain, it's got a full tank of that fuel, which lets it shift easily between feeling happy, sad, or whatever. But chronic stress, that's like flooring the gas pedal and redlining the engine for weeks or even months. You just burn through all that fuel way faster than your body can make more, and eventually, that tank runs empty. And when that fuel tank is empty, the brain becomes physically unable to shift out of that state of sadness and exhaustion. It gets stuck. This has nothing to do with being weak or not trying hard enough. It's a biological condition, just like having asthma or diabetes. This quote just nails it, right? So here's the bottom line. Willpower alone cannot fix a biological problem. You can't just think your way into having more brain chemicals, any more than you can wish away a fever. The brain just doesn't have the resources it needs. Okay, so understanding the biology is the key to making sense of treatment. It helps us see why professional help isn't just a good idea, but why it's necessary, and how it works by tackling the root cause of the problem, helping the brain refuel and get back in balance.
This timeline is so important to understand. Unlike taking an aspirin for a headache, antidepressants are not a quick fix. They're not happy pills. They work slowly, over weeks and months, to help the brain rebuild its supply of those crucial neurotransmitters. It's a gradual healing process.
And we have to bust some of these common myths that stop people from getting help. So, no, medication is not instant. No, antidepressants are not addictive. They don't create a craving or a high. And yes, while there can be side effects at first, they almost always fade as your body gets used to the medication.
Now look at this number. It's pretty shocking, and it really shows why sticking with treatment is so critical. This is the estimated relapse rate for people who stop their medication after only 3 months. And why is it so high? Because even though they might be feeling a lot better, the underlying biology in the brain just hasn't had enough time to fully stabilize.
So, knowing all this, that depression is a treatable biological condition and that there's real, effective help out there, what is the first concrete step you can take on that path to recovery?
It really all starts with a conversation. Your family doctor, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, these are all professionals who are trained to give you an accurate diagnosis and, more importantly, guide you to the treatment path that's right for you. So let's just quickly recap our journey here. We started with some simple but powerful habits to manage that day-to-day stress. Then, we really understood that depression is a real, biological illness. It is not a character flaw. We saw that there are effective medical treatments that can restore the brain's balance. And, maybe the most important thing, asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. Taking that first step can feel like the hardest part, I know, but it's also the most important one. Just remember, with the right information and the right support, recovery isn't just possible, it's what's expected.